Frieren is the new best support for the water team thanks to her very strong shields and very powerful debuff. But when it does come to your Frieren's very best artifact build, you're going to want to use the 4-set effect bonus of the Guardian set because like I just said, she does create shields, so this can basically increase the shield effectiveness that she creates by 30%, and it can also increase the damage of any team member who does have a shield by 10% for 10 seconds, so it's very powerful. But then also we'll be pairing up with the 4-set effect of Sylph's Blessing because this can increase your whole entire team's elemental weakness damage by up to 15%, so again this is also very strong and one of the best things for you to use with Frieren. However, when you are looking to take your Frieren into some very high-end content like the brand new Workshop of Brilliant Lights, then you are definitely going to want to have a lot of total power, so instead of 4-set Guardian and Sylph's Blessing, you can also use Burning Blessing and also Chaotic Wish on the 8-set effect bonus. However, I would personally prefer Burning Blessing. For all of your Frieren's best artifact main stats, these are all very easy for you to decide because for your helmets, body armor and rain, you'll want to go for additional defense as your best main stat, but you can also go for defense percent if you would like to. Then following those first three, the last two most important main stats for your artifacts are going to be to do with your boots as well as also your bracelet, because with Frieren being of the water elements, you will want to go for the water damage percent main stat for your bracelet. And finally for the boots, you'll want to go for either defense percent or critical hit damage. However, I would personally go for defense percent for that extra shield strength that it can provide. Up next, let's talk about all of your Frieren's best substats, and pretty obviously you'll definitely want to prioritize getting additional defense and also defense percent for all of the reasons I've already mentioned before, as well as also getting all of her crit stats with her critical hit rate, getting that to 50% with some surplus, as well as also getting your critical hit damage to be around 200% if you can. But also some other very important substats are going to be the likes of damage reduction, because this gives a huge amount of total power, as well as also damage increase and defense penetration for the very same reasons. So let's next talk about all of your very best cores for your Frieren, and in my opinion it really doesn't matter which cores you go for, because my personal ones that I use currently are going to be the Eyes of the Watcher on your Mind Piece for the extra 20% critical hit damage to your core attacks, as well as also the Nameless Demon's Horn for the extra 10% max HP shield so she can have more consistency with the Guardian set. And finally, I do also run the Teeth of the Watcher to reduce skill mana point consumption. However, she really doesn't have any troubles with mana, so again, like I just said, it really doesn't matter which ones you go for. After that, we then need to talk about all of your best main and also substats for all of your different cores, and starting off with your main stats, you'll of course want to prioritize getting additional attack, defense and HP, because as always, it does give you the biggest power and also stat increase for hunters. And also, just like always, when it does come to your core substats, you basically just want to prioritize whatever stat that you are currently missing from your artifacts, whether it be stuff like defense pen, damage increase, crit rate, crit damage, or even damage reduction. All of that stuff is going to be very good for your cores. Okay, now let's talk about all of your Frieren's best advancements. And starting off, as always, let's talk about her A1, and this basically says when her ultimate skill does hit, you can remove the target shield, and this is very powerful because it's something that the likes of Malin Fisher can also do. Then it further says when Frieren's defense magic is activated, which is the shield that she can create, you can immediately recover the HP of your entire team by 20% of Frieren's defense. But as well, when your first basic skill does hit, you can now paralyze the target for 3 seconds, and then when your second basic skill hits, you can then activate the Volzenbell effect on the target. Apologies if I said that wrong, I don't know how to say it. And this A1 can decrease your target's defense by 5% and can increase their chance of receiving a critical hit by 5%, and can even increase the critical hit damage that they take by 5%. Frieren's A2 can buff the entire team's attack, defense and HP by 9%, so she can buff pretty much any character in the game. But as for her A3, the mana power control and defense magic effects are now enhanced, where mana power control can now increase her defense by 40%, and it can increase it again by another 40% when the user has 50% or more MP. Then as for the buff, defense magic buff, this can now grant a shield equal to 30% of Frieren's defense and also grant a 10% damage reduction for a whole entire minute. The penultimate advancement for Frieren is obviously her A4, and this can increase your entire team's critical hit damage by 20%. However, for the final advancement being her A5, this basically will enhance the Volzenbell effect, and this can now decrease your enemy's defense by 10%, as well as also increase their chance of receiving a critical hit by 15%, and also increases their critical hit damage taken by 15%, all for 20 seconds. Following all of your advancements for Frieren, let's talk about her skill level priority, and with her being a support, you do basically just want to level up all of her skills entirely. However, one of her 3 very best skills for you to level up is going to be her first basic skill, because this is one of the most important and her most used skills within her entire kit, so increasing its damage to the amount that you can see right here will be very important. The same also goes for her second basic skill, because again, just like the first basic skill, you'll use it within every single rotation, and you can increase its damage to be just shy of 3000% of her defense, so it's not too bad. And finally, her ultimate skill is the third most important skill within her entire kit because it's something that she does use pretty much within every other rotation, and this skill's damage can go up to 4,839% of her defense as damage. Alright, let's now talk about your very best team for your Frieren, and with her being of the water element, it does then mean of course you are going to want to use her within the water team. So for your very best breaker, you're going to want to use Sorin as your breaker, as well as also your Pure Sword Princess Charhain as your very main DPS. So starting off with Sorin and why she is so good within this team, and it's basically just because she does a huge amount of break damage and has one of the highest amounts of break damage within the game, and it's also mainly because of the sub-zero debuff that she can apply once her missiles do actually land, which can increase the water damage taken by 2%, which is applied to your enemy and can stack up to 10 times, totaling into a 20% damage increase. But as well, she also does have the Black Sea buff, which increases your entire team's defense max HP by 20% and can even recover their MP. Then as for Charhain, I think it's pretty obvious as to why she's here, because her damage is absolutely ridiculous still, because when she has fully stacked buffs like Will of the Sword that can increase her defense, her crit rate, her crit damage, and also when she's applied buffs like Pure Sword Princess that can further increase her skill and ultimate damage, and even Swords Resolve, Charhain basically just does a huge amount of damage with her core attacks, basic skills, and even her ultimate skill. When it comes to all of your best shadows for your Frieren and your Wards team, you have a lot of different options for your authority leader, and in my opinion, the best authority leader for you to use is going to be Bestie for the 8% increase to your defense penetration. But on top of that, Bestie can further increase your whole entire team's defense penetration by another 10% through her Ice Predator skill, totaling in up to an 18% defense penetration increase, making her one of the very best shadows for you to use. Or as well, for your authority leader, if you are struggling to crit, then you can use Egress for his authority buff of an 8% critical hit rate increase. Then followed by that, for your supportive shadows, I definitely think Iron is going to be absolutely fantastic for his defense decrease, because his defense decrease can stack with Frieren's. And for the final supportive shadow, you have many different options that you can use, because for example, you do have the likes of Beru who can heal as well as also apply the punishment debuff, or you can use the likes of Serbi the Cerberus for his combustion debuff, and even you can use Skull to further decrease your enemy's defense as well as also reduce the amount of healing that they receive. So finally, let's talk about how you can best use your Frieren to get the most out of her kits as possible. So to start off her skill rotation, you'll of course want to bring her in with her QTE skill, followed up by her first basic skill, so then you can charge your power gauge by 80%. Then after this, the next best skill for you to use is going to be your second basic skill, so you can apply the debuff, followed up by your ultimate skill, which will normally complete your rotation. However, within some rotations, you won't actually have your Frieren's ultimate up, so when you don't have your ultimate to use within your rotation, then just make sure you are using your basic attack to activate your core attack, so then you can trigger your other Hunter's QTE skills that way instead. Alright, there you have it. That is how to completely best build Frieren in solo leveling Arise, and overall, if you did enjoy this video or you just found it useful in general, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you all in the next video. Peace!